very good morning to you all. See, this is a privilege for you and for me because this morning we'll interact on a topic which is very common, and I think everyone must be aware, and I'm sure some of you are already aware about it, that yes, there is some kind of global warming or something like that is happening around us. First of all, I would like to pay my regards to the Vice Chancellor of this university, Professor Gurmail Singh, Professor Johal, Dr. Shekhar, Dr. Singh, and other faculty members who have been kind enough to invite me to this pious university, I would say, and to interact with young minds, which I think are really very important nowadays to interact with the young minds who have potential to come out and really take up challenges of life through science. And that is what this Inspire course basically looks at, that some kind of interaction through which we can I can learn something, you can learn something, and in the process I think we all get some positive feedback from each other. So the topic for today is, you have seen, it's global warming and climate change, and we time and again depend upon that yes, there is something like forest and biodiversity. Of course, forests are a part of biodiversity, but I have specifically mentioned that because it's a system which is a terrestrial system usually when the forests are there. And when we talk of carbon fixation or sequestration, there also the forest play a major role, because the tree species which are there, the short vegetation and the long vegetation, the tall vegetation, both have their roles, and that is how we want to keep a balance between what is produced and what is really consumed. So both ways, if we can keep a balance, I think that's a wonderful thing. But before I start with that, I have few slides just to show you an important academician, scientist, person, and even, you know, he was president of our country. And I think I put him as one of the most successful president of country. He say you have to dream before your dreams can come true. And at some place he says that you have to dream certain things. It's not that dreams of when you are under sleep and then you take dreams. No, dream when you are awake. And that is just inspiration for all of us, that we need to think about any problem, any thing which you find is happening around us. And if we can really wake up to that, I'm sure you can rise to become a big scientist, a big thinker, philosopher, and whatnot. And another place I have seen, he writes, past is a waste paper. We shouldn't look towards past more. You can have a reference, but you can't go on depending upon the past. And present is a newspaper. You will read it and keep it for some time, and you just move away from that. And future is a question paper for which we all are aware. Whenever there are examination, we start reading, we start preparing, and we prepare specifically. But if a teacher says that you come after reading a particular chapter tomorrow, I think hardly few of you will come prepared with. But when it's a question paper to come in examination, you all try to come. So think, read, innovate. Innovation again is very important. That excitement towards innovation, when you find something, when you really, after your careful thinking, you come across that, well, something is important and you can really come up to that level, that gives you perhaps much happiness. I was reading somewhere that how a person can be the happiest, and that happiness which can live for longer. a long time. Someone said, if one can get food of his choice, one can get shelter of his choice, कोठी बढ़िया बन जाए, कुछ ऐसा. Ultimately, the net best answer was, if you are completing your work, perhaps that kind of satisfaction and happiness remains with you throughout life. If you are completing whatever objective you had in mind, or if you have some vision and you complete, you achieve that vision, that kind of above all. You may forget even eating and other comforts, but if you are heading towards your goal, you can be highly successful about that. And again for you it writes, ignited minds are more powerful than thermonuclear energy. We say that among the energy sources, thermonuclear energy is important, but says this young mind is even more energetic. That way I put a responsibility on you also, that if there is a problem around us in nature, I mean nature is not wrong, but we have made certain aspects of nature around us to go wrong. And perhaps all these things were in a balance earlier. Why this balance ultimately shifted? I think somewhere ultimately human beings thinking for greed, otherwise we should share, we should sustain, but we are not doing like that. We want always to accumulate maybe wealth, maybe substances, items, things, everything. And because of that we go somewhere wrong. This is where we stand in terms of environmental performance index. And I think though this slide looks very negative to say to begin with, that out of 180 countries we are at position 177. It's really in terms of very pathetic, but at the same time if you look at positively, we can say we have ample scope to progress, to come out of this. Even our few efforts can put it few pedestals higher next time and so on, and we can get a path which gives us much more than perhaps we have seen today. Why can't we become like Switzerland or France? There are certain things which are beyond us, natural, because the kind of weather, the kind of season, the kind of other conditions, but still whatever we can do, we need to contribute towards those things. Modern day living, when we look at, because we say earlier it was balanced, now it is not, that means something has gone wrong somewhere with us. We were like few million hunters earlier when we started with, and now we are nearly 9 billion population, which is all red and much advanced, I should say. But again the cost is which we are paying is environmental degradation. Somewhere if we have lot much population, to provide them the basic needs, and basic needs we count as kulli, gulli and julli, isn't it? Shelter, clothing and food. These three things are absolute requirement of a human being, and we need to of course provide those. And for providing those, if the number gets much more, which perhaps this earth may not be able to sustain the way we want to get sustenance with our greed and with our everything, but if we can share and sustain, I think everything can be possible. This is how this time I say little bit better scenario is emerging. People are getting wiser, many new technologies are finding place in Punjab to overcome the kind of pollution, kind of greenhouse gases created by burning of paddy around. Though it has not come completely off, but already in Punjab, I have not seen, but I have come to know from an official of Sampuran, some company, that they going ahead with all this residue of crops, and they will turn it into CNG, will prepare electricity out of that, and will prepare lot much of compost. So that way our soils will be taken care of through that compost rather than the fertilizer. There will be less impact on fertilizer for the farmers, and their soils will be ready. At the same time, Punjab will be perhaps getting some amount of more electricity. So both way it will be better. We know that for feeding or for providing, as I said, three requirements of life, there has to be more industrialization. There has to be more industry and other sources wherein we can get all those things for us, for the increasing or swelling population. So when we say that there is industrialization, industries are not really sustainable. Let me say, they are not carbon neutral, they are carbon producers. So their footprint in terms of carbon is higher than many other kind of processes, because nature has, even if a forest is producing lot much of carbon dioxide when it degrades, but degradation and sequestration are going on simultaneously. So that means whatever carbon dioxide is produced or greenhouse gas is produced, that is again, sink is also there, and that way both these things gets balanced. But when it comes to us, we produce carbon dioxide, plants take up that carbon dioxide, provide us oxygen. You know that this is the simplest thing, but have you ever looked at very sensitively? The nature has provided you a marvelous system wherein you may be giving out carbon dioxide, but nature provides you through plants a system without which you cannot really survive. That is such importance. But since it is available to us, we don't bother about us. We never care that it's getting polluted. We are totally irresponsible in that manner. So out of this greenhouse gases then comes the greenhouse effect. I'm sure everyone is aware about that there is greenhouse effect. I just have tried to put it in minimum words. Greenhouse effect is caused by an atmosphere containing gases that absorb and emit infrared radiation. So you should be clear that these are the infrared radiation basically which are responsible for greenhouse effect. Greenhouse gases trap heat within the surface troposphere, causing heating at the surface of the planet. But it was going on earlier, and the simple thing is it is increasing now. We want to check its increase, otherwise we need not stop it altogether. If it gets stopped, then the problem will be that a projected temperature of minus 19 degrees Celsius will be here if there is no global warming. That means some warming is required for natural process to go on in this part of the globe. But we have now put this much more than what was earlier, because the rise in carbon dioxide concentration, look at 100 gigaton of carbon produced per year, that is what is consumed, and still we are not able to quench whole of this carbon dioxide which is produced. These are major greenhouse gases. I think you know about this: carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, fluorinated gases, ozone. Of course, water vapors is maximum in amount, but I think we do not have control over it in an effective way, because this planet on which we survive is 2/3 is water and 1/3 is terrestrial or other things where you have wetland, you have canals, and everything is going on in that particular area, 1/3. So that means if there is water vapor produced by the sea, a vast majority of the area on this globe, there must be much more water vapors all the time. And it was there. But now, if the temperature increases even by 0.5 degrees Celsius, you know, if the temperature increases, evaporation increases. Isn't it? Am I correct? Yes. So that means there will be even little bit increase in temperature can add up more water vapor, and hence greenhouse gas concentration will increase. And if it increase, it further takes up that infrared radiation and make a layer, so infrared radiation won't escape, and there will be more warming, faster warming. That's the reason in all the conventions ever since Kyoto Protocol, Copenhagen, Paris and so on, we always look into a system wherein we can neutralize the carbon dioxide or greenhouse gases as such. Because if you look at methane, which is much less, of course, in concentration compared to carbon dioxide, but it is 84 times more reactive for infrared radiation and others and causing the heating. This shows you that there is fluctuation, of course. Seasonal fluctuation can be there in terms of ppm of carbon dioxide. This seasonal fluctuation is because you find when there is autumn, you get autumn break also. Autumn, there is no leaf, new leaves are to come. And when new leaves are come, then there is upburst of carbon dioxide fixation. But when there is no leaf, at that time there is slump in terms of carbon dioxide sequestration. So in the atmosphere there will be more carbon dioxide at that time. So that shows a rise and then slump and then rise and slump. Every year this happens. But overall the trend is increasing. You can imagine around 390 something to nearly 400 above. When I was a student like you, we were used to have 300 ppm or around that carbon dioxide. And now it has crossed 400. And if we really calculate, it is 25% more what we had earlier. So if it is 25% more, that's a serious business, because something increasing by over 25% and it's not just stopped, it's still going on. So that means we need to be careful about this. This is how basically the solar radiations, they reach the earth and the water. Some of these get reflected, and if there are more forests, they will be getting absorbed. Isn't it? Some of them will be absorbed, and because at that time some of the radiation, some of the ground will be protected by the plants. Secondly, they will also utilizing carbon dioxide, and there will not be anything like this greenhouse gas layer that something will be stopped. They can easily move back. But now all of these can't go back, and some of these again reflected back, causing warming on this planet. Out of this global warming, the net result comes as climate change. And climate change is shift in worldwide weather phenomena, which results in increase in ultimately temperature. And have you ever thought of, or have you ever felt that there is some climate change going on? I think the kind of frequency of say tsunamis, the frequency of this storms and other things that has increased, floods, droughts, they were there, but I think the frequency is increasing, unpredictability is increasing, and that's a reason that we say that there is change in climate, and it's not India, it's whole of the world which is concerned with that. So it's a reality, as you also agree, and temperature has risen during the last century about 0.74 degrees Celsius, and if it is 0.74 degrees Celsius, that is for 100 years. And why we say it is increasing? Because the first 50 years they had hardly say 0.3 degrees Celsius rise, and the next 50 year had nearly double. So that means it is increasing, and the trend also shows, as you had seen in the graph earlier, that it's continuously increase in temperature, there is continuous increase in greenhouse gases as well. So this is how, when the industrialization was not there, 278 ppm of carbon dioxide, then it rose to 379 in 2005, and now we get around 405 or so. So why it happens? I mean, what are the reasons that it happens? Because we know greenhouse gases, okay, that ultimately is the cause, but how that greenhouse gets increased, and that again you find we need to have more thermal power plant to provide us energy. We use more of fossil fuel, maybe CNG, maybe coal, maybe gas, any form of that. Though nowadays it is said that over coal or over petrol or diesel liquid fuel, there is more of gaseous fuel which is being used. But it's again fossil fuel. So some addition to carbon dioxide or greenhouse gases is there. Unless we come down to biofuels, which take up carbon dioxide, and when it burns, it just gives out that much carbon dioxide without disturbing the balance of nature. Isn't it? That can be possible. And I think you have to look into those aspects. You have to think and innovate what can be done, what is already done, and what need to be done. And then we know that earlier people were either moving in public transport and the number was less, or taking bicycle, but now everyone comes in a vehicle. It has become more frequent, and for that you have to have broader roads, cutting the trees, and many trees are sacrificed in a couple of days. So increasing population, I put it as one of the major factor as well. That also increases the need for extensive exploitation of our exhaustible resources. If we have a population which is productive in terms of some good research, perhaps they will find out some way, and then there can be better things ahead, wherein we can have increased efficiency in terms of crop production, better efficiency in terms of energy sources, and where we can have renewable sources and so on. This is how the carbon dioxide emission has been shown per capita, per head. Every one of us has a share of nearly 1.1 ton per year. And if you look at this, USA nearly 20.1. Though it has large area, it has few people, but the kind of facility they use is much more. But they have much forest area as well. Our per capita is less. I mean, it's not something we should be happy. It's less because we have many poor people who have no facility in terms of producing more carbon. If one good house has 5 ACs or geysers and everything, that means they are consuming energy, much more energy than a man who is living in a hut. So, but when it comes to per capita, all those are counted together, and that is where we get less share in terms of per capita income. So we are presently having a scene like this. We wish to have a scene like this around us, right? That change we want. What happens with global warming is extensive soil erosion can happen when there is more glacier melting with temperature and more water coming down. It can lead to silting, even water contamination, waterborne diseases can come, because with the temperature and water available both, many pathogens will really come out and will become active. It will result in migration of people or migration of population, which we sometimes refer to as eco-refugees, ecological refugees. It also affects on biodiversity, flora and fauna, and also some of the dormant microbes, they become active to spread diseases. There can be geographical shift or eradication of habitats of polar bear and other animals, dolphins and others, and there can be even change in timing of different biological events. That is very, very important thing, because if there is change in biological event, the pollination gets a different timing. Crop is maturing at other time, the insect which is to pollinate it will be maturing another time. They will mismatch and it will affect the pollination process. And for this reason, I think most of the advanced countries have their separate setups now for taking care of insects which are important in pollination. So depending upon pollination, they have a good network now formed so that pollination can be maintained for good harvest of the crop. And secondly, I would say that we normally say whenever someone in our home or our mother is not feeling well, having temperature, we are concerned about that. Every member in the house. Now we say Mother Earth. If we say Mother Earth, Dharti Maa, no one is bothered, because if there is warming, that means it's getting some temperature. But none of us is bothered about that. And ultimately nothing will happen to Earth, I tell you. It will happen to us. It will reflect on us. We will be gone or our next generation will be gone, but Earth will be here, it will remain here. It's not going to, get affected by this. It is only for highlighting our, survival on this planet. If Mother Earth gets more temperature around, then we are at a risk. So if it goes like that, we normally say water is irreplaceable component of life, isn't it? With water we say the greenery has come, the plants have really come. And from plants we ultimately have got we evolved thereafter. And we are depending upon plants. In a food chain which you study, we are at the climax. And there are primary producers, secondary, everything, and then we come. So that means starting from water, we have come many levels of our evolution, and then a human race is there. So we have, if we have a unsustainable future, we want to make it sustainable. That is where our role will come. Otherwise, there will be problem of food security. There can be the way we are cutting our forests and trees and not bothering, it can lead to more congestion in terms of oxygen even. If you look at biodiversity, how it is connected to climate change. Earlier I have told you that climate change is very important, but it gets better, it can overcome if there is proper biodiversity available. The plantations are there, every kind of organism are there. They help us also, because then our food chain will be going on smoothly. But if we cut off some part of that, then perhaps the food chain gets disturbed. Something similar is happening to our wetland. Just think, if we cut one tree, a tree is not simply a tree. It has got many birds, sometimes they make nests on that. There will be many microbes, there can be many epiphytes growing on that. With one tree, everything is gone. They will find their habitat somewhere else. Some of them may be able to find their habitat, some of them will die with that plant. And some of the organisms, key species, you must have studied it. Keystone species is on which many other levels of organism are dependent. It's something like a pillar of a building. If you take out the pillar, the building will collapse. So all that ecosystem, all that setup of things can collapse. So we have to be very careful that our biodiversity is maintained, and for that our climate also, because that is both way. If you look at forest and if you look at biodiversity, they will help the climate change positively, and indirectly climate change will help the biodiversity also to grow or to get maintained properly. And for that reason, keeping in view the importance of biodiversity in our life, the International Year of Biological Diversity was kept at 2010, and then International Day of Biological Diversity every year, that is on May 22nd. Even this 10-year as a decade is already on 2011 to 2020, and it is decade of biodiversity. That shows the importance of biodiversity. These are different ecosystems through which biodiversity can be studied. We know biodiversity is very important for us, and I need not go into details, just maintaining the balance of ecosystem, recycling, storage of nutrients. If there are more trees and more biodiversity, we know the pollution is less. That is the reason we go to hill station sometime during summers, because it gives us a better feeling in terms of protecting water sources, forming and protecting soil, carbon sequestration and oxygen release, providing food for humans, timber, breeding stock, and everything related to biodiversity will be there. And even the medicines, industrial materials, and it is affected by temperature, altitude, precipitation, soil type, relation of species with each other, invasive species, and even climate change. So that means all these factors, maybe some to more extent, some to lesser extent, can put a pressure on biodiversity. And whenever we lose biodiversity, you must have this question quite common, that if there are 3-4 factors, habitat destruction is the most important part wherein an organism can become extinct or can become rare or its life can come to an end. If its habitat is degraded or is finished, the organism may not be able to survive for long. And then of course, if climate change, the way the warming is increasing, it may even affect the biodiversity of a particular place. Even invasive species, pollution, overpopulation of humans, and then global warming, of course, is related to climate change. Even it includes if forest degradation takes place, biodiversity again is affected. This is the data about biodiversity. We are celebrating this 25-year of action of biodiversity, but we know that we are poor in terms of documenting the biodiversity of our resources. Animals or microbes or plants, there are more number which are unknown, and there are less perhaps which have been known all over the globe. That means there is much assignment for you to look into those organisms which may be more promising. Something like people were fed up from diabetic people, especially from sugar, they found stevia. Similarly, jatropha as a energy plant, algal organism as biofuel plants, and now this agro waste. So that means something can come out, something promising can come out if you look into what is not known and you try to find out that. So some experts say nearly 30% of the species of the earth will be extinct, and if something goes, now we know that nearly 2-3 crops are much more common for our food, and if wheat and rice are gone, or say the pulses, you can look into your daily food, where it will go, what kind of problem you will face. That is how is that if you are dependent upon some food which is not in this region, which is not common here, it's not easy to survive on that for long, and there are problems of that. And then we find that keeping this in view, we need to conserve our biodiversity, and for that we need to take care of our climate change or greenhouse effect as well. And we need to have conservation and sustainable utilization. Sustainability is something wherein you are utilizing the resources, but you are not damaging the resources in a way that it may not be, its renewability may be affected. So that it becomes available to you, it can be available to the next coming generations, and if you are utilizing it today, it is also available tomorrow. Up to that level, if you use a particular resource, it will be a sustainable condition. If an industry is carbon neutral, it's producing some, say, water effluents, and it's producing some greenhouse gases. If they can utilize those greenhouse gases in some of their process there, that becomes carbon neutral. That means it's not adding anything to our atmosphere, and that kind of systems we require, which again, through scientific knowledge, some of you may come up someday to have that. Now we say climate change affects biodiversity. Earlier we were looking at biodiversity can affect climate change, but if climate change changes, can biodiversity be affected? I think forest and biodiversity both, they are, if the temperature is increasing, some of the plants may not be able to even undergo pollination, they may come to an end. That's one thing. When there is altitudinal changes, the temperature, a plant which is acclimatized to a particular temperature, that may not be able to grow at that temperature, that may shift. If there can be migration of some plants, shift in the plants, they may survive. That means there has to be an adaptation. And we need to, nowadays there is much more, concentration of studies on adaptation for the human being, for the plants, for the microbes and everything. So first is that climate has always changed the ecosystem and species coming and going. Rapid climate change affect ecosystem and species ability to adapt. That's what I said. If the species can adapt to change, if it's very gradual change, we can adapt, the species can adapt. But if there is more continuous change at a particular critical level, then the species may not be able to change, but it will dry up. If the climate change results into a drought or a flood, you know how many plants, if you have seen the videos of Kerala floods this time, how many trees were uprooted, how many people were affected, how many animals were affected, what to talk of microbes. So that is how, when a catastrophe like that takes place, lot much of biodiversity is gone. And rapid climate change and accelerating biodiversity loss risks human security. That's what I referred to earlier, the food chain basically that gets affected. If we look at the forests, we know that under proper circumstances we should have 1/3 cover of this earth as, of this terrestrial earth as forest, 33% as is the term used. But we do not have that 33%. Most of the states do not have. Of course, there are few which have even 85%. Think of Arunachal Pradesh, northeastern states, they have more cover in terms of their forest. And similarly, International Year of Forests is also was the theme in 2011, and International Forest Day is celebrated every year in 21st of March, and it started only 2013. That means the kind of importance with biodiversity is affected, major one again is the forest. Ecosystem services provided by forests, they include habitat for many animals, many other plants, many microbes, and purification of air, that you know, regulation of water cycle, because every plant has lot much water in it, evaporates, takes up from the soil and makes your even water free of contaminants when it condensation. Carbon storage, because whatever productivity is there is the storage of carbon basically, because it may be glucose, it may be sucrose, it may be anything, but it is carbon. The hydrocarbons are there. Nutrient cycling, regulation of temperature, maintenance of soil quality, food, fodder, and all these things are dependent upon biodiversity as well as on the forests. And there are many such facts which are important from the point of view of forests. I will not go into detail of this, but forests are home to 80% of the world's terrestrial biodiversity. This much you can remember. And why forests are important for climate change basically? It says climate is maintained by forest as they absorb the sunlight incident on the earth and prevent heating on the earth's surface directly. If you are sitting under a tree, the heating will be less. If you are sitting without a tree, the result you can know better. And with the heat absorbed, evapotranspiration takes place, and that lead to maybe a drought condition wherein biodiversity and forest both can be affected, and it can lead to even drought or even rainfall in the high reaches if the temperature increases, and they are the most important factor for stabilization of the climate because they are distributed in major part of the terrestrial ecosystems, and they are contributing to carbon sequestration because there are many trees in the reserved forest, though we have not let them in the same way, because earlier we were looking at Dalbergia plants, tali, so often on our roads. It's a beautiful plant making a canopy on the road, and the roads were not heated up. But nowadays when the roads got broadened, all those trees are gone. So if the temperature increases even by a bit, it encourages forest fires. And you know, in California and in some other parts of US, the forest fires are very common. And because of the reasons present in different plants, some of them they to go fire, and if there is increase in temperature, that will increase the chances of frequent fires. And if once the fire is there in a forest, it will affect lot much of biodiversity and even forest area, and whole, even the humankind indirectly is affected through that. We are increasing our agriculture area through eradicating or degrading the forest, and there are big companies which go to different villages, take their land on contract or otherwise, finish up those small plantations there, and now they have felt that when they take up that land and then make an industry, they are adding up to the greenhouse greenhouse effect, and at the same time whatever little subsistence or survival was there on the small natural plants of those village people, that also gets very, very expensive. They are devoid of those facilities as well. And then dying trees emit stores of carbon dioxide. When we cut trees and let it degrade or we burn, they give out carbon dioxide, you know it. And that will add to greenhouse gases because you have cut the trees, you have not grown more trees for that. And it can disturb the water cycles, and even the wildfire can produce lot much of smoke that can not only greenhouse gases as a climate change, even the respiratory and other diseases for the human beings also. So there can be diseases, there can be increased temperature, extremes in weather, and acidification of ocean because they are the carbon sinks, and increased temperature and carbon dioxide make ocean more acidic. Then threat to crops. If the temperature increases, we know that wheat crop is one of the sensitive crop which gets affected because it's a crop which gets its grain during summer, and you cut it by April, Baisakhi normally. And during that time when the grain maturation is there or grain setting is there, if the temperature increases beyond some temperature, there may be a decline in total production. We are using every kind of chemical to increase the production, but if there is increase in temperature, that may go just futile. So that means it is important that the temperature remains in check. Similarly, there can be some species which go extinct or rare, and then they may not be able to play their role in the ecosystem or in the food chain, And then there is a problem now, increasing problem of invasive species. And that again is an area which requires a lot much work, how to control those invasive species from our habitats. Throughout the world there have been tropical, temperate or boreal forests depending upon the conditions. And if we look at a single plant, even you can see lot much of epiphytic growth depend upon that. Some of the twines are there and some small trees along with that, herbs, shrubs and then trees. And then tropical forests, they are considered to be having much more diversity. And our country also comes under tropical and some area under subtropical, and we have lot much of, if we look at the Western Ghats, it is rich in biodiversity, but now again the kind of problems coming there is again environmental degradation is taking a toll on that. This is how the small plants and the higher plants both are contributing, and the contributions in different continents is like this, and you find most of this contributed even by the small trees. The bigger trees are, because they are less in number, small trees are more in number. And then the temperate forest, they are usually again rich forest and they have rain forest because of the large amount of rainfall which occurs there. And they are affected by climate change to a greater extent, because if the drought condition is there, their forest fire will be more, their survival will become, because the low plantation which comes, herbs and others, they will not be there, so rains are necessary for such kind of forests, so that there may be proper cover and the plants can grow properly. Boreal forests basically are where the temperature is relatively lesser, mountainous sometime, and you find they are not big trees, they are small trees, and if you go still higher there may not be any such trees present. Because we find in India moist tropical or dry tropical, similarly mountainous temperate or mountainous subtropical, and at the highest alpine forests. This is where the rainfall is there, and tropical forest otherwise very rich in tree cover, and it will not even allow light to really come down to the level of much less light reaches. Look at this is dry. Rain and or moist and dry, you get the patches which are without trees, and even the nature of the plants you can find some of them at xerophytes. And then mountainous ecosystem, basically they are also affected by climate. This is one temperate where the rain is possible and trees are long. Another is where it's relatively subtropical and you find there are relatively lesser trees, and it is rhododendrons and others. If you go still higher, you may find the trees cover is not properly there. Another important factor which contributes is the forest degradation, and that is one of the most important factors for affecting the climate change. So globally, if you look at forests contain more carbon than the entire atmosphere. This is very important. 650 billion tons of carbon contained in the forest. That means if we go on degrading them, that amount of carbon dioxide will enter into the system. And so that's why we say deforestation or degradation both can account for 17 to 20% of global greenhouse gas emission globally, and so much increase in the gas emission only because of the forest is very serious business, I think. Forest fires, I told you, they increase and habitat loss of flora and fauna, and then they help stabilize the climate. They have potential to contribute to 1/3 of the total climate change mitigation. I mean, they can take care of the climate change up to 1/3 one of the sources which can take care of 1/3 of that change. And 350 million hectares of degraded land that could have 1.7 gigaton of carbon dioxide could have been fixed, sequestered, but because it's not there, that much carbon dioxide will be available for greenhouse layer. And as I said in the beginning, forest can be a cause for climate change, and climate change can be a solution. If we control it, it can be a solution for maintaining the forest and climate change both. So few species may show a steep decline in population, or there may be local extinction, particularly native species. Whenever there are invasive species coming in, the loss is mainly the native species. Though it looks strange, but it is always like it, because when something comes from outside, they try to establish, they utilize, they are mentally prepared, and you are already there, you do not think that way of competition first. By the time they overpower you, only then you come to know, and they will develop better root system, they will have some secondary metabolite which won't allow you to grow, but they will grow of their own. And I think even if you look at the cultural aspect of the people, that happens, and that is already happening in Punjab. So this is one of the area which also needs to be looked into. And I think this we have already seen, loss of Arctic sea ice. Because if we look at the data available for Antarctica even, they say every year the glaciers are reducing in size. And if that surface is reducing in size as a continent, Antarctica, that amply indicates that global warming is occurring, or the temperature is increasing. Because otherwise it was a continent which was frozen throughout the year, but it's not now. And for climate stabilization, oceans, soil and vegetation, they are the carbon sinks, because carbon can be there in the water, it can be there in vegetation, and even the soil carbon. Soil also, that is why nowadays people say don't use tillage. Plowing may be less in the field so that carbon may not escape in different forms. It may be there. Organic carbon needs to be maintained in the fields. And another important effect which is happening is global mean sea level has risen by 10 to 20 centimeter, and it may further rise to 88%. That means some of the countries, one island in South Africa is already underwater, that has totally gone into water. Even Holland, some of the areas are underwater, and who knows, someday India also comes in the line, because some of the areas which are coastal area, if the water really rises, because there will be expansion with temperature also. One is expansion, second is more floods and more melting of ice and glaciers are coming down. Ultimately the water level can increase, and this is before you to see that yes, 10 to 20 centimeters is not a small thing when it is little difference from the coastal level, whatever cities or towns are there. So how we can take control of this? I think one is that we need to reduce our requirements, especially those requirements which are dependent upon fossil fuel utilization, which are dependent on forest unsustainability, that should be reduced, and we need to refuse certain facilities. For example, everyone, if their parents are ready to give them a car, it's better you try to be on scooter till as far as possible. And if you are using a car, you need to keep it tuned, you need to keep proper tire pressure, you need to use it careful thinking where it is required and where it is not. It's not simply doing matar gashti that you take the vehicle and go on, because it is adding up to something which will affect you. So never ever think someone other will do it for you. It is you have to do it. Similarly, we need to recycle what can be possible. We need to reuse, and we need to reclaim if something is there. And there are examples where reclamation is there. Then the effect of climate change can be even the water shortage, because when there will be flood, water will be there but potable water will not be there. So that is, or if drought is there, then of course the shortage is before you. And then it results in, we have already talked about this, and many other countries, communities have already become climate refugee. We know that whenever there is any flood approaching, the government say, or the state or the district administration say, vacate your houses within 12 hours, within 8 hours. You think if you have to even change a rented house, how much time it requires, how many thinking it requires. And when you are asked to change within 12 hours, otherwise you can't survive, what can happen? So why can't we take steps earlier, cautious approach to see that those floods become less in intensity and less in frequency. So we find our future as unsustainable if we do not take control of situation of this phenomena and we leave it unattended, because it is going to have economical effect. It can increase poverty and it can even do food security. All this health, everything, whichever you have, can affect. Now this is how habitat loss can affect you. If the polar bear are surviving on ice, if the ice is melt, this will come to an end, or can it survive? It will not survive for long. It will move. Same is with dolphins. They will try to move. If the forests are cut, where the animals will go? They will go to cities. You read in newspaper, one panther has entered into this city, he was killed, or like, why they are coming? Because we have cut their forest, their habitat is gone, they want to find some habitat somewhere. Look at in a city, if some animal comes like this, taking a shelter, another polar bear coming, it will survive for some time. Ultimately either people will kill it or some other animal will kill it. And for avoiding this is, we need to reduce emissions. That is the key. Wherever we can reduce, we need to reduce the emissions. We need to adapt ourselves so that the damage is less. Even the crops, whatever we are working on, now through plant breeding and through genetic engineering, new species are being worked out which can be tolerant to higher temperatures. And this is very important, we need to use fresh and seasonal food over preserved food. This is very simple, but I think most of us, we are not doing like that. We find it a status symbol when we utilize a particular vegetable or a fruit when it is not available in your area. You get it transported, ultimately add more cost, add more carbon footprint, and then we take it. And of course, planting more trees and creating awareness among the people. And mitigation can be through, of course, the forest, more forest area. It can be adaptation, as I earlier said. This is how a temporary adaptation, I would say. When the polar bears come to a city, because you know in this area or another forest area, there are grey colored bears. They won't allow it. There will be kind of competition. So to avoid this, another one is saying, okay, you paint me like this so that people to really recognize me. And that is how sometimes people have to change their shape and external. That is what eco-refuges are. So we need to have condensation, which is very, very a phenomena which is very, very important, but we don't have much on this. And precipitation, which can remove water vapor as far as possible. And then exchange of atmospheric carbon dioxide with the waters. And then of course more plants, I say, because carbon dioxide we know is affecting the photosynthesis. That we know. It's a limiting factor for photosynthesis. Can some of you work on, because the enzyme ribulose 1,5-bis phosphate carboxylase is very slow enzyme. If you can increase its activity, if the carbon dioxide is more by some metabolic engineering, maybe someday it can take up more sequester more carbon dioxide, give you more productivity, at the same time takes care of your environment, isn't it? But it requires careful thinking and some innovation in that. This is about which we have normally a kind of contrast. Should we go vegetarian? Others say no, we need to be non-vegetarian. I am not in favor of either vegetarian or non-vegetarian. Keeping in view the topic, I would like to see your response. Should be vegetarian or non-vegetarian environmentally? Vegetarian. Which? Vegetarian. Why vegetarian? Because if one is vegetarian, if he says vegetarian, I don't believe. If he knows the reason, yes, that is why he is a vegetarian. That's why I am saying, you can be vegetarian, non-vegetarian. That's not the matter here. The matter is why vegetarian or why non-vegetarian, which is going to help. Vegetarian, he says, okay, agreed. And why vegetarian? Because I have put this table before you. You can see, if we have to procure 1 kg of tomato, we have to have an emission of carbon dioxide equivalent to 1.1 kg. Similarly, if we want to get wheat, approximately 1 kg wheat, 2.7 figure kg. And if we have to get a pork, it's 12.1 kg. Some of you will believe, some of you will not, but I give you very simple example. Whenever you keep a hen, isn't it, those who are fond of meat or non-veg, your crop will be ready in some time. You have soil is being used and you are using some irrigation and you are adding, maybe you add fertilizer or not, something will come out. 1 kg of grain will not take much. But if you are rearing a hen, you may have to feed it on 10, 12 or 20 kg of maize or other feed only, or grain, only then it will give you 1 kg of meat, isn't it? So it is very easily comparable that vegetarian food can be better in terms of global warming, right? Is that clear? We need to have even something with the eco-friendly buildings, wherein you have higher efficiency lighting system. If you remember, we started with earlier with the lantern, isn't it, in the villages when I was like you. Then electricity was there and we started using the bulbs, incandescent bulbs. Then came the tube light and then came CFL and now we come down to LED. That means if some of you wants to innovate, want to do some research, don't think that now light is there, bulb is there, what I will do. No. Find out some improvement what is existing. And same example, similar example, there was pager, then mobile phone came. Had the people left it there that okay, pager is a new novelty, they would have missed so many things. And now every day you get a new model of some company of this mobile phone. Everyone is sporting that mobile phone, though it's most of the time now creating nuisance. We are more dependent, more tuned to that, which should not be. But it's getting progress in a way. If you can use it wisely, it's a wonderful thing. And it has not stopped yet. It is fulfilling many of your needs. Similarly, energy trend can be there, where I refer to LED. This is the kind of forest which we require for our survival, and this is what we find, that if the forests are cut, that means we are cutting our lungs out. We are doing some kind of surgery on us that our lungs become ineffective. So that means we need to conserve, preserve. Well, I go here, we normally say, and the government also says, that if you want to cut a tree, plant 10 trees, isn't it? Or 5 trees. When you plant 5-10 trees, they take around 15 to 25 years to grow or 30 years to grow to the tree which you have cut, the size of tree. Even 10 trees pooled together will not be able to sequester so much of carbon dioxide which a bigger tree can sequester, isn't it? So that means whenever you plan to cut a tree, you need to plant these earlier, so that by the time you cut it, there will be some compensation for that kind of trees. So these phenomena are very much interlinked to each other. Global warming or loss of natural resources, deforestation, loss of biodiversity, and of course our food security. All these are very much interlinked things, and hence we say we need to protect the forest. It will protect the biodiversity as well. Otherwise, human race can also someday under stress can turn like this. And you won't like to see this kind of face, I am sure. So world population is the total number of humans currently living and was estimated to have reached 7.6 billion. Some people claim it to be nearly 9 billion. As of May 2018, it took over 2 lakh years of human history for the world population to reach 1 billion and now 200 years to reach this much. So we are very fast now. It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent that survives. It is the one that is the most adaptable. That is why I say we need to adapt also with these increasing. So conclusion of the talk is, there is only one wise conclusion: prevention is better than cure. Is it right? Prevention is better than cure, and we need to have, we cannot stop development. That is there. We need to survive, we have to have development, but that should be sustainable development, development that meets the needs of present generation without compromising on the ability of future generation to meet their demand. So thank you very much.